It was just another Tuesday in City A. The sun was shining, traffic was bustling, and then everything just stuttered. A man reaching for his coffee cup found his hand snapping back to his side, only to reach for it again and again and again. A car that had just swerved to avoid a pigeon froze midair, tires spinning uselessly. Across the city, sirens began to wail, but the sound was a broken record, looping the same 2-second shriek over and over. Time itself was having a seizure, and in the heart of this temporal chaos, 3 figures stood completely untouched. Tatsumaki, the tornado of terror, floated a few feet off the ground, her brow furrowed in confusion. Her sister, Fubuki, the blizzard of hell, had her hands outstretched, but there was no psychic energy to manipulate, only glitches. And beside them, looking mildly annoyed, was Saitama. He blinked, looking at a flock of birds frozen mid-flap. He scratched his bald head. "Is my watch broken?" he wondered aloud. Before anyone could react, it set its sights on the strongest psychic present. When she could move again, the monster had already repositioned. She dodged, but then found herself dodging again and again. She was trapped in a 2-second loop, forever evading an attack that never truly passed. Saitama, having seen enough, decided to end it. He reared back his fist, the air crackling with impending force. Consecutive norm. He threw the punch, but just before his glove could make contact, reality rewound. He was back in his starting stance. The monster hadn't even flinched. He tried again, faster this time. Rewind. He tried a serious punch. Rewind. His fist, the fist that could obliterate mountains and part oceans, couldn't even connect. It was like trying to punch a dream. The Chrono Warden let out a sound like grinding gears, a chilling mechanical laugh. Spoke, its voice a chorus of ticking clocks. "You cannot defeat me, heroes. You misunderstand my power. I do not stop time. I deny conclusions." It gestured a shadowy hand, and a nearby building that was collapsing midair suddenly reassembled itself, only to begin collapsing again. Every action you take, every event that unfolds, is a sequence. I simply prevent the final step. The punch never lands. The shield never fully forms. Saitama stood there, his fist still clenched. He looked at Tatsumaki, struggling against the constant temporal stuns, and Fubuki, trapped in her own personal time loop. How do you punch a concept? How do you defeat an opponent who simply says no to the very laws of cause and effect? The monster was right. It wasn't about power or speed. It was about nullifying the very idea of victory. As Fubuki repeated her dodge for the 100th time, a thought sparked in her mind. The monster said it controlled events, not existence. It rewound actions, but it didn't erase them from having happened in the first place. The memory of the action remained. She screamed to her sister, her voice cutting through the stuttering airwaves between loops. "Tatsumaki, it can rewind what you do, but it can't rewind what you are. Hold it, just hold it." Understanding dawned on Tatsumaki's face. This wasn't a fight of speed or power, but one of sheer willpower. She ignored the monster, ignored the freezing stuns, and focused inward. She poured every ounce of her psychic might into a single, simple act, creating a barrier. A massive emerald dome of energy erupted around the 3 of them. The Chrono Warden waved its hand. The dome vanished as time rewound. But a split second later it was back, exactly as it was. Tatsumaki was holding the idea of the barrier in her mind, and through sheer, stubborn will, She forced it back into existence every time the monster tried to undo it. The monster snarled, focusing its power on her, but the barrier held, flickering in and out of existence but never truly failing. It was a stalemate of will. And in the middle of it all, Saitama just stood still. He lowered his fist, stopped trying to attack. He just stood there, with a profoundly bored expression on his face. The Chrono Warden, distracted by its struggle with Tatsumaki, turned its attention back to the bald man. It rewound time by a few seconds, expecting him to be back in his fighting stance. But he wasn't. He was still just standing there, unmoved, unbothered. The monster panicked. It rewound time again, further this time. Saitama was still in the exact same spot, his posture unchanged, his boredom palpable. It was as if he existed on a separate track from reality itself. The monster's frantic rewinds were like trying to erase a permanent marker with a pencil eraser. He was moving between the ticks of the clock, in the seam between the end of one loop and the beginning of another. He spoke, his voice flat and devoid of any excitement. "So, you rewind stuff. But you can't rewind me getting bored." He took another step. The Chrono Warden flinched back, its temporal abilities useless against a being that simply refused to participate. One more step. Saitama was now face to face with the creature. Shattered into countless motes of light, and with a final dying tick, time snapped back to normal. Across city, millions of people shook their heads, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu, but otherwise unharmed. Tatsumaki lowered her barrier, breathing heavily, a bead of sweat on her forehead. Fubuki stared at Saitama, a look of profound shock on her face. It wasn't that Saitama had overpowered the time manipulation. It was that the time manipulation had no effect on him. He existed outside of its rules, a constant in a sea of variables. Tatsumaki, ever prideful, floated down and turned away, but she muttered just loud enough for Fubuki to hear. HMPH, so even time itself couldn't stop him. Saitama, oblivious to their existential revelations, pulled out his phone and stared at the screen, his face a mask of true horror. "Oh no," he groaned. "The supermarket's weekend super sale. Did I miss it?"